Well, good afternoon, guys. Before we get started on the title of today's video, I just wanted to give you a quick update on what I've been crawling around with for the last couple hours. Needed a kick and a little thirst quencher. But this, if you're new to the channel, is a burnt Primetech 175. There was an active foul play and somebody set this machine on fire with the previous owner. But we bought it off of them. And basically we got it for parts, 100%, that's obvious. But the undercarriage alone pretty much covered the parts of the whole machine. But there's a couple little extra items underneath here. Like there is a still, as far as I know, good 4BT Cummins underneath here. But what I'm doing is stealing this double pulley system off of the block. This is an update from Primetech because the way everything was routed wasn't enough surface area for the belt on the crank pulley. So they put this other little pulley on here, a little idler, to you know, wrap the belt around the crank a little bit more, so when you kick the fan into reverse it didn't chirp and slip so bad, because current Primetech we have doesn't have the update on it. And well, could have just went and bought a new one of those. We already bought new pulleys, but we already got it, and this thing needs to come apart anyway. Here's the cooling unit out of it. You got your radiator, hydraulic cooler right there, and then a intercooler. Gosh dang, can't even talk. But it's definitely a sad day. This is a Primetech 175 is awesome machine. I really like that, and it's a bummer that somebody sabotaged that rig. But let's go ahead and walk over here to see something that's not been sabotaged, and hopefully nobody will touch this machine in a harmful manner. But there she is. Finally reveal this thing to you guys. Takeuchi TL-12 R2. She's brand spanking new. It's been a while since got a new one. It's a 2018 model with 6 hours on it. They didn't have 19 available yet. He said they're about a month out, so whatever. Same old, same old. Well, I'm gonna go into a little tour of this machine, give you guys the gist of it, and drop down the reasons why I went with a Takeuchi over anything else for a skid steer. And first and foremost, it is a skid steer. It is not a dedicated mulcher. It's not going to go out day in and day out mulching. I have a lot of other plans for this. I mean, we got it with a bucket for one. I wanted a skid steer. I didn't want to have a, you know, mulcher that's can skid steer. I wanted to have a skid steer that could mulch, you know, if that makes any sense. But if you haven't seen one of these things in person, they're not a little rig. It's, you know, it's like a little tank bulldozer. And I did some dirt work with it, about an hour's worth, and this thing just pushes. I was so surprised at how well this thing pushes piles of dirt, no problem. But let's go ahead and start with the outside of this machine. First and foremost, let's start with those hydraulics. This is a cool little option that they have on these. High flow. This for to start over, it has a 5-hose configuration. That means you have 2 separate hydraulic circuits. So this is your high flow right here. We outfitted it with the screw together quick couplers because we don't want any leaking, and these things have treated us pretty good. So pressure, return, and then K-string. And then you have, when I say 5-hose, you got a separate circuit right here. So in case I mean, there's different variations and everything, you'd use your separate circuit. But for instance, running a mulcher head, your high flow would be doing the head work, and then you can have your separate circuit for opening and closing the hood door on the front of the machine containing the debris. But then this cool other little feature that they have right here is they have a little, you know, split open for the high flow. So you can still run your grapple bucket and all that kind of stuff on the smaller fittings, and you don't have to always use your big fittings that are, you know, dedicated for that. And, you know, you think, well, you don't want to be running high flow with your grapple bucket all the time or what have you. There is 3 different settings on the computer in there that you can set your what flow you want out there. So you can set it, 1 being mulcher, 2, you know, auger, 3 grapple bucket. So you just pick that when you're switching your attachments, and that's not a big deal. For you can preset all that. I'll show you a little bit of that on the computer when I get in there. Then you come down here when you are switching. It is just a flip a switch inside the cab cylinder, quick disconnects. I mean, I played a joke on my uncle when we first got it. I was driving across the field and I dropped the bucket off of it, and he came over to help me out because I was like, hey, the bucket fell off. He looking down at it, and he tried to actually cam those bars over, so I got him good. But undercarriage on this thing, It's a rigid, it's not an MTL. I did go out and test drive an MTL and made sure this is what I really wanted. Reason I like this a lot is because this is something I'm already kind of accustomed to with an excavator. I've gotten several thousand hours on excavator time, and you know, undercarriage isn't much different than this, except for this, you know, it's got a high track on these. But rigid, I was happy with that. This thing is very nimble. I mean, it's as bumpy as you make it for no matter what machine you're in. And we have a 6-way dozer blade that we already own for the Rayco back in the day that never gets to get used, and you know, just a grapple rake thing and a tree shear. That was one thing I was worried about with MTL with the suspension, how much it would rock and be a little awkward and not as sturdy as I was hoping for if we had suspension, you know, going over. And because like that little tree is not that big a deal for the tree shear. Something, yeah, one of these guys, it would do that. I felt it was better off to have a rigid undercarriage, so that's why I went with that, and I like it very much. But I want to say, first looking at this machine, it was not love at first sight for me, by no means. I looked at it and thought, dang, this is a big skid steer. That was my first honest thought. I was very surprised at the sheer size of this machine. And but when I finally got to drive one, it had the FAE mulcher head on it, made a video on it, and you can see just the excitement that I had driving it. And that, like I said, I wasn't really expecting too much out of it, but I was very surprised and very happy with the performance it had, how agile it is, nimble, and the recovery time on the head. You have to tune a head correctly when you're running limited horsepower. You know, coming from like Prime Tech, that thing's designed for mulching. That's all it does. But a skid steer, that's multi-application thing, so you got to tune everything just right. But speaking of power, open up this Larry and we'll see what kind of setup we got running underneath the bonnet of this old girl. Tucked way back down underneath there, 111 horsepower Kubota turbo diesel. She's got a good little throat to it. It is DEF engine, it's final tier 4, but these skid steers are always, they're notorious for not having a lot of, you know, access trying to get in there, because I mean, you look at that, rough. But all you got to do is take out these 2 bolts. The cooling unit just hinges right out of the way, and you got access to all that. I don't have a toolkit on me right now, or else I would pop her open for you. And when you go up for everything else, the whole cab lifts up, and I mean, it lifts up easy. You got 2 bolts pop it out, and everything you need to do to service this machine filter wise, they're all remotely located right underneath that seat. So it's easy access. Your fuel filter, oil filter, hydraulic filter, all of it's right there. And one thing guys said about other machines is the cabs. They were really hyped on the cabs because they're ROP swap certified and all that. We got a forestry unit on this one, got bars and all that, and the cab in general is fully certified for a tree to land on it. Not that you want to crash a tree on a machine like this, or any machine. You gotta stay safe out there, and falling a tree on your machine isn't safe. I understand that happens, but the cab is fully certified for something like that to land on it. So not worried about that kind of damage. That was a big issue that people had with, or concerns, but it's ROP swap certified, so I don't know what the problem is there. Things that we're gonna have to do to this machine, because it's going to be skid steer function and forestry function, I think we're going to put a little brace cover right here to protect the hoses and all that. I went over to the little excavator the other day when I was messing around with it, slid this under the blade. The bucket is wider than the blade on the 12,000 pound Mini X, and I lifted the Mini X up with this thing. So she's got a little bit of grunt force, I'll tell you that much. Backup camera. A couple things that I like about this, not that you're wanting to back up into things, but it's going to happen at times. All this is steel back here. That's all steel, and it's got this bar down there. We might extend that a little bit just for safekeeping measure. These are drilled and tapped for counterweights. We might put a little guard around it. Some guys do that. We might not, depending on, we'll see how it plays out. Got your diesel and your good old DEF right there. One thing that really stood out to me is, well, I don't like how the Rayco is. You got a door that hinges out to the side. This thing is sweet. It's just like the Kubota excavators for the windshield. Pop it up straight out of the way. I was watching a Kubota video this morning comparing their 95 to this and every other skid steer, and they said because this stuck out a little bit, you'd hit your head on it. And yeah, no, this, watch this here. Just the gap that this thing has. I don't know how close my head gets to that thing, but I ain't even trying. You ain't getting close to that. All your standard stuff at the inside of the cab's pretty much been like this for a while now, but you can choose to run with it up, or you can choose to run with it down. And then the biggest perk with that, being that it slides up out of the way, if you got trouble, your machine died, whatever, you don't have to really worry too much about trying to get the loader arms out of the way so you can open the door, because it just plops out of the way and you can crawl your way out of it. You could bust out the back window. There is, I don't know if this one had the hammer thing. I don't remember if it was tempered glass. I don't see a hammer in here. It shows, oh, you just got to pull a little tab thing and kick it out. But let's go ahead and go over some of the controls here. We disconnected the backup beeper for a second driving it because it's absolutely ridiculous. You got your throttle over here for your continuous throttle, or you have a throttle pedal down here. But I mean, look at the room that this thing has. I kick around and all kinds of stuff. Over here you got your simple stuff. Windshield wipers. There's an economy mode for the people in San Francisco to be happy, and then to kick your reburn and stuff on just in case you've been doing a little too much idle time. Every time you fire up the machine, you have to hit the release the parking brake, so you got some functions. And you come over here, you got your high flow, depending on what you want, one-way stuff, and then I think, I don't remember what that one was, but you go for here. This is for your secondary hydraulics. Like if you're going to be running your auxiliary hydraulics, hit that one down there. Or if you're going to run your hydraulic circuit with electronics, so that changes what your buttons do up here. Little radio. It does come with an auxiliary cord, which is cool. It'd be nice if it was a USB, because iPhones now don't have that little head jack on it. Then down here, quick little guy for quick disconnect for dropping the bucket. That is pretty sweet. I'm a pretty big fan of that. But if you got hydraulics on there, it doesn't really matter too much. But heat cooled, AC, all the works. This thing is a big cab. Big old cab. Definitely happy with how big this cab is. People say you don't get into this kind of business to be comfortable. Or there was one guy, he commented on Facebook on one of my posts. He said, who cares how big the cab is? It's your employees that are going to be driving the machine. I'm just going to let that lie, because that's not a very good comment. I wouldn't want to work for that gentleman. But that was one of the definite bigger reasons why I picked this machine, is because the cab size. So I'm just gonna, where'd the hell boom go? It hadn't been fired up in a couple days. So it does have a backup camera. You can hit that button so you can see Boonster back there hanging out. If you come over here, you go through, this is where you can set up your functions, what you want to be doing. So what I was saying, you can choose 1, 2, or 3. This one's 100% full get her done mode. For, shows a little, oh you guys, it's a little flashy for you, for the mulcher head. And then they got number 2 set up for a grapple, and number 3 set up for a impact hammer right there. So you can just go through, and if you want to set up for one of those, all you got to do is hit that, put it on number 2, number 3, whatever your attachment is, and you're on your way. So let's go ahead and fire this bird up. How I have it set up now, because I want to keep an eye on all my temperatures and such, see what the fuel is. So all I got to do is hit the backup, pull the stick back a little bit, and then it kicks my backup camera on, just like that. That way I got full-time use of all my gauges, make sure nothing's overheating or, you know, nothing's leaking or what have you. And oh, we're up to 7.3 hours now. I disconnected the circuit up there with the switch, so we're gonna have to put that back on there so we can do the quick disconnect. Go ahead and drop her down. See if Boone even moved. Yeah, he took off. I got a video I took with Jim from Global Machinery when he dropped this machine off. It was a complete surprise that he brought it down, personally delivered it at the house. That is freaking pretty high up there as far as it goes for, you know, killing it as a salesman. So I appreciated that very much, and I wasn't expecting this thing to be here until actually I probably would have went and picked it up like today or something. So I will do a clip here at the end of Jim when he was here with his new Dodge and all that stuff. But I'm looking forward to running this machine, having the rubber tracks so that we can go back and forth on blacktop driveways and stuff, because we've been running the steel track machines for a long time, and especially for a mulcher at all, it's hurting us a lot. This machine's going to fill a lot of voids, and it weighs 12,000 as it sits, or 13 with the bucket on there. And take the bucket off, put a 3,000 pound mulcher head on there, you got a 15,000 pound unit, and that's an easy tow right there. I like that a lot. But yeah, so pretty much in a lump sum, very, very happy with this machine. Obviously I haven't used it a lot, but I did get a demo one for a decent amount of time, so we'll get this thing on a job and really see how she eats. But for right now, we're going to sign this video off, and you guys can watch my actual reaction talking to Jim when he first dropped this machine off. But anyway guys, we'll catch you on the next one. Thank you guys so much for watching. Comment below what kind of a skid steer you're operating, what's your best luck on everything is. We are going to put a hydraulic cooler on this thing just for safe measures. We're going to run it for a little while, see what kind of engine temps or hydraulic temps it gets. I've talked to several guys that are running these machines, and they haven't had any hydraulic issues. So, but just for the heck of it, we're going to put a cooler up on the roof, just to maintain something for a longer time. That way we don't have to worry about anything, you know, breaking down on it. But anyway guys, top secret project's coming. It still ain't it. Catch you guys on the next one. Enjoy the conversation with Jim. Later. Check her out. Got a brand new ski. Brand new 2018 Laramie, but we don't really care about that, even though it makes these ones look old because they're all dirty and get used. But we got another 2018 over here. Couldn't get a 2019 though, huh?
Later this year.
Yeah.
Actually, next month.
Next month. Oh shoot, should have waited another month. I'll trade this one in a month and get equal value out of it.
There you go.
Okay, so check this out. Brand new TL-12. Jim, down from Global Machine.
Hi guys.
They surprised the crap out of me. M&V belt behind my back. Got Arthur to bring up. Brand new machine. I was talking to him earlier today about coming and getting it later this week. But, well, I still got Jim here. I wanted to talk about this rig a little bit more. And I know a lot of people are going to be like, why'd you go with a Takeuchi? Well, I mean, there's a lot of reasons, but first and foremost, I like the whole machine, the whole feel. Once you drive this thing, it makes a lot more sense. What was that saying he said earlier?
Those in the know, no Takeuchi.
There you go. It's corny, but
Yeah.
Once you actually drive the machine, you're just like, where's this thing been? And first thing to start it off with, you know, when it came to looking for a machine like this, when we went like a year ago, went down there and met Jim and just browsed around and wasted his time for half a day and talked to him, and didn't really know too much about Takeuchi, but learned a lot about PrimeTech. And then the last go around down there, started showing a little bit more interest in this machine, and then demoed this, and the way you are with the machine, he's got a lot of background with it, and when I went to go look at ASV or anything else, nobody really wanted to go and give me a bunch of details on every little thing about the machine behind, you know, just the fact that it's a skid steer, it can mulch, it can do dirt work, it can whatever. You know, Jim had experience with it back in how many years?
10 years, equipment manager.
Yeah, so he wanted to talk about it rather than just say, come buy my machine, I have them for sale. And, you know, that's really what got me started looking into it, just the confidence that he spoke on it. And they surprised the crap out of me and brought the bird up today. I wanted to go down and get it next week or something so I could look at something else for later on down the road, but once you drive one of these, it really makes sense.
It moved a lot of dirt, so it's not that rotten. I think the roots rotted off the tips. Damn, would you look at that? She's crawling up. That's got to be a yard. I've tried that with the Kubota, and it didn't seem like it made much money. The guy across the street got one of those little snow blowers with jacks.
Yeah,
he made $1,400 in one day. I come home with like 500.
yeah.
It's like, dude.
Well, what's really nice too is, like, say if you lived in Cascade Shores, you'd have like a 6.
Alright, it's a late one, but I want to go ahead and summarize what I was trying to get to with the conversation with Jim, but felt like I'll just go ahead and leave that clip in the video, show the excitement. He literally brought that machine up here just to surprise me. I had no idea he was bringing it up, so freaking awesome. Jim at Global Machinery and Global Machinery in general, they're always knocking out awesome deals, so if you guys are in the Sacramento area and looking at any of the products I show on this channel, that's where we get it from. So give Jim a call and they'll hook you up with a good deal. But what my point was with that whole conversation is talking to Jim about Takeuchi, not just on buy my machine standpoint, because he wasn't all about that. He wanted to tell you about Takeuchi and the brand itself. And back when he was managing a company and looking for machines for his crew to run, he spotted Takeuchi and that thing stood out to him, and he bought several of those things and they treated him good, and he wanted to share those experiences. And I just liked everything that he had to say about it. And when I finally got to run one, like I said earlier in the video, it's nice. It's good. Pilot controls are solid. You're not worried about electronics failing in the joysticks because it's pilot controls. It's hydraulic, you know, actuated controls. So that was one thing I didn't like to hear about on other machines, was issues with the joysticks, electrical issue style. But we put the mulcher head on it today. Jim actually came back up and we dinked around with it for a couple hours, just chit chat and have a good time, and tuned it to the machine, and it's running pretty awesome. I'll show some clips of that here at the end. But I think it's going to suit us good. And right now, I have two sets of keys right here. One key is to the Takeuchi, and the second is to the Top Secret project. So if you guys have made it this far in the video, comment below your final guess on what the Top Secret project is, and this week I will do a video on it. I think you guys will be very excited, and life is just, there's a lot going on right now, and everything's working pretty good. So I just got to keep up with the pace and just be working my asphalt off, and everything should work out good. But you guys have a good day. Take her easy. Hit them buttons like, comment, subscribe. And again, if you need something Takeuchi, FAE, Prime Tech brand, or Mechalek and stuff, Global Machinery, hit them boys up. They will hook you up with a deal. Just let them know I sent you. Anyway, we'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye.